stories of the last days are true indicators, it would seem that there are several requirements before we can know that we know and know that we have the proper authority. And the first that we have gleaned is that we need to be tested. And the second is that it has to be the right time. And the third is still in the process of, you might say, crystallization, so that it can be given expression for us. But there's a story, another Sufi story, that brings them all together for us. So perhaps it will allow us not only to complete that knowing of what that third requirement is, but also to round off what it is that is needed so that we can accept and acknowledge that indeed we do stand in this place of knowing that we know and knowing that we have the proper authority. And the story is about that dervish who was a seeker after knowledge. And he'd studied the great text and so forth, as the sayings go. But it came to a time where he found that he had to go out and seek one who had this knowledge that he could learn from. So, making the arduous journey, as it always is, to find this Sufi, he came into his presence and asked, in fact he begged, could knowledge be passed to him? And the old Sufi master said, you cannot have knowledge until you bring me a little carpet which I can give to a holy man so that the work can be continued. So the dervish was sent out on this quest. So first he went to a carpet weaver, and he said to the carpet weaver, I need a little carpet to give to the Sufi so that I can attain knowledge, so that he can pass the carpet on to a holy man so that the work can be continued. Well, the carpet maker said, yeah, all right, you've got your story, but I've got my story too, and I can't make carpets unless I've got thread. So if you can bring me some thread, I'll be glad to give you a carpet. So the dervish went on his way, and he found an old woman who made thread. And again he told his story that he needed the thread to give to the carpet maker so the carpet maker could give him a carpet, and so forth. And the old woman said, look, you've got your things that are going on, and I've got my things going on, and my thing is that I can't make thread if I don't have goat's hair. So if you can bring me some goat's hair, I'll make you the thread, and you can do the rest yourself. Yes. So the dervish went off, and he found a goat keeper. And when he met the goat keeper, he told his story about what was needed, and the goat keeper was quite an agitated man. And he said, don't tell me all of that stuff. What about me? I've got problems of my own, and my problem is that I need a pen to keep my goats in. They keep running away, and I can't give you goat's hair if I can't keep my goats contained. And if you can take care of that, I'll give you the goat's hair, and you can do whatever you want with it. So, of course, the task of the dervish then was to go and find a carpenter who could make a pen so that the goats could be penned, and well, as the rest of the story goes. But when he went to the carpenter and he told his story, who was a young, quite handsome fellow, the fellow said, yeah, look, we've all got stories, but you know, I've got my problems too. And the dervish inquired, what's your problem? And the carpenter said, I want to get married, but no one will marry me. I've been looking for a wife, but if I could just find a wife, I'd be happy to make your pen, whatever you wanted to do with it. So the dervish went off, and of course what he was doing was looking for a matchmaker. So he did find an old crone in town who was indeed a matchmaker, and you know, he praised the story a little bit for her, and she said, yes, I do know of a maiden who'd be willing to marry a carpenter, but you know, you've got your quest and I've had my quest all my life, and my quest is that I've been seeking for knowledge. Oh, said the dervish, you can't have knowledge until you have a pen for the goats and the cow. And the old woman said, I'm not interested in that kind of knowledge. Go away. So the poor dervish was sent on his way, and he was totally confused, you know, and he really didn't quite know. He felt quite voided and empty, you know, a failure, in fact. So he was wandering down the main street of the town after this, and he'd absolutely, completely forgotten about his quest for knowledge. All he could think about was the carpet. So he was walking along the street, muttering to himself, you need the carpet to give to the Sufi, to the holy man, so the holy man can complete his task. Well, as he was walking along the road, it so happened that a trader in one of the shops there, seeing this dervish passing him, muttering to himself, thinking that he was chanting some kind of intonation, hurried over to him and accosted him in the street and said, I know that you dervishes have strange powers, and I could see that you're in that kind of state, and I wonder if you can help me. I have this huge problem that I would dearly hope that you would be able to help. Well, said the dervish, I know absolutely nothing at all, but you know, I will help you in any way that I can. What is it that's your problem? And so the tradesperson said, well, I have this daughter who's languishing at home, and I really cannot find out what's the matter with her. She's just, and so will you come to my house and visit with her, because I'm sure that you'll be able to help her. So the dervish went off with the trader to his house, and there was this maiden lying on her couch, looking very pale and wan. But when the dervish walked into the room, the young woman sort of brightened up a little bit, and she said, oh, I know that you're the person who can help me, but nobody else can. So the dervish asked her, what is it? And the young woman said, I'm in love with the carpenter. And she described him. And the dervish was able to say, well, it happens that I know this carpenter, and I can introduce to him because he's looking for a bride too. So the tradesman was really very happy. He thought that his daughter was having one of those, you know, fainting things like women do. But he was glad to know that this is what it was, and that he would be able to arrange the marriage. So of course it was. The matchmaking was done, the maiden was mated up with the carpenter, and of course we know that the carpenter then made this pen for the goats, and the goat man was then able to give the goat hair to the thread, and so the dervish was able to go back to the Sufi master with his little carpet. And the Sufi master said to the dervish, well, now, because you were able to let go of your own desire and think only of the carpet, you are now worthy to receive the knowledge. So recognizing as we do that all the characters in all of these stories are aspects of our self. And we put them all together in this wonderful kaleidoscope of aspects. The holy man, the Sufi master, the dervish, and all those others, and bring them together. Can we now define and recognize what it is that has been crystallizing for us in the recognition of what it is that's the third requirement? The test, the timing, and what does this story tell us? What does knowledge represent for the dervish? Could it be the claiming of that power of life that's there when the requirements are fulfilled? So what is this third requirement? Recognized in the final words of the Sufi master. How would you phrase it?
There's no I left.
There's no I left. Not a trace, not a vestige that could claim this power for itself. Not a mote, not a grain. Is this it? Is it that we can recognize? Can you look deep inside yourself and know that there is not a wisp of a desire that is always preceded by an I want, I need, I seek.